As Mihi Dobe rolled into the stillness of a Peterborough estate just after midnight, he believed he was embarking on a routine delivery. Little did he know, it was a carefully laid trap. In an instant, a shotgun blast shattered the silence, and Dobe found himself slumped behind the wheel, blood seeping from his wounds. This was no ordinary gangland execution. It was the desperate ploy of just strung-out addicts, Liz Hutchinson and Christopher Pycraft, both steeped in a lifetime of crime and tangled histories. They thought they could seize the opportunity to rob a county lines drug runner, slip into the shadows of the estate, and escape with cash and drugs that were never meant to be theirs. There was a time when the lines between right and wrong blurred, and in the shadows of the east of England, a courier found himself entangled in a web of danger. He worked for the Turks, a notorious gang whose operations sent tremors through the streets. In mere hours, chaos erupted as both law enforcement and gang members sought the truth behind a brutal murder. One suspect sought refuge in a scrapyard, while the other remained unfazed, lingering on the very estate where the crime unfolded. This tale unfolds as a robbery spiraled into a nightmare, leading to a senseless killing and the unforgiving wave of gang retribution that followed. To rob any dealer was reckless, but to target this particular dealer, that was a death sentence waiting to be served. It is a lamentable tale that Liz Hutchinson and Christopher Pycraft are not merely acquainted with the system, they have been molded by it. At the age of 30, Hutchinson's adult life has been a tumultuous journey, his criminal record narrating a harrowing saga of violence and threats. Often fueled by prejudice, he has wielded knives in public and clashed with law enforcement, becoming a familiar face to nearly every officer in Peterborough. Pycraft, at 40, carries an even weightier burden. With her, in a world where shadows linger and desperation reigns, to men meander through existence, lost in the haze of unemployment and addiction, forever in pursuit of their next high. They roam the dilapidated Peterborough estates, where the weight of poverty seeps into every crevice, and the echoes of past transgressions fade into the walls. Amidst a foggy haze, Hutchinson unveiled his daring schemier plan to seize quick cash by robbing a county lines dealer. Pycraft, drawn in by the allure of the idea, needed little persuasion. Their target was no mere street dealer. They set their sights on the Turks, a notorious gang known for their ruthless enforcement. In the shadows of Peterborough, a network thrived, orchestrated by the Turks, who maneuvered through disposable phones and a constantly shifting lineup of couriers. In this realm, the unspoken rules were clear: serve the Turks, and you basked in their protection. Betray them, and you were marked for life. Yet, Hutchinson felt a surge of confidence. Armed with a shotgun, he envisioned a straightforward plan: place an order, lure the courier into Crabtree Estate, and seize everything without a hitch. No struggle, no bloodshed. In their drug-fueled haze, they believed no one truly suffered, but unbeknownst to them, they were igniting a fuse that would lead to far greater chaos. Deadlier. The plan lacked sophistication, yet in their altered state, Hutchinson and Pycraft believed it to be foolproof. They would order a substantial quantity of drugs from the Turks' county lines number, await the courier's arrival, and strike swiftly. Hutchinson boasted he could easily procure a shotgun. They envisioned the perfect road, deep within the Crabtree Estate, where every street mirrored the others, creating a maze meant to bewilder, an ideal setting to execute their scheme and disappear. Over the following weeks, the idea lingered between them, simmering as they met. Once more, they stood poised for action. The date marked on their calendars, February 23rd, just past the stroke of midnight. The call was placed to the Turks line, and the deal was struck. Little did the gang realize, the buyers were not mere customers. They were predators lurking in the shadows. Behind the wheel that fateful night was Mihi Dobe, a Romanian national who had called the UK home for years. He was not a man of violence, occupying a lowly position in the gang's hierarchy. Delivering P. As Anna Selling settled into the passenger seat, the atmosphere thickened around them, the dimly lit estate looming ahead. Unbeknownst to them, two figures lurked in the shadows, their intentions shrouded in darkness. Hutchinson gripped the shotgun tightly, while Pycraft positioned himself to intercept the car. The silence enveloped the estate, the streets swallowed by night, crafting an impeccable snare. Once Dola crossed the threshold, escape would be a distant dream. It was just past midnight on February 23, 2023, when Mickey Dobe steered his Toyota into the serpentine lanes of the Crabtree estate in Peterborough. The estate lay shrouded in an unsettling silence, a perplexing maze of nearly indistinguishable roads, all bearing the name Crabtree, where street signs appeared more ornamental than practical. This was no mere happenstance. It was precisely why Liz Hutchinson and Christopher Pycraft had selected this place. From their concealed vantage point, Hutchinson and Pycraft observed intently as Dobe, a reliable courier for the Turks County Lines gang, prepared for yet another delivery. He had navigated these streets countless times without a hitch, but tonight carried an air of uncertainty, especially with his girlfriend Anna Selling by his side, not as a shield, but for reasons yet to unfold. As the minutes stretched on, an unsettling feeling crept in while they navigated the estate, headlights slicing through the heavy silence. The drop-off point appeared to dissolve into the night, with no customers in sightingly endless rows of darkened houses and ominous dead ends. A sense of unease settled over Dobe, prompting him to steer the car away from the estate. It was then that Christopher Pycraft emerged from the shadows, gesturing for him to stop. Dobe eased the car to a halt beneath a flickering street lamp. In the reflection of his driver's side mirror, he caught sight of Movimenta, second figure drawing near, the hooded form of Liz Hutchinson advancing with purpose. In a heartbeat, he was armed with a shotgun, and sensing the trap, Dobe reacted instinctively. He slammed his foot on the accelerator, desperate to escape. But it was too late. In the chaos, Liz Hutchinson pulled the trigger. The shotgun blast shattered the rear driver's side window with devastating force, and the pellet struck Dobe in the back of the head. The vehicle jolted to a halt, and Anna began screaming. Blood filled the interior of the car. The sound echoed across the estate, waking nearby residents. Two brothers ran from their home, drawn by the cries that pierced the night. What was discovered sent chills down the spine. Doble slumped forward, lifeless, a gaping wound marring the back of his skull. Anna, overwhelmed by despair, struggled to find her voice. One of the brothers dialed for help, while the other hastily removed his jacket, pressing it against Dewey's head in a frantic attempt to staunch the flow of blood. The police arrived 20 minutes later, swiftly followed by paramedics. But despite their efforts, Dewey was whisked away to the hospital, never to awaken again. He was pronounced dead shortly thereafter. Meanwhile, Hutchinson and Pycraft had slipped away into the darkness, leaving no trace behind. No drugs, just a surge of panic, and the blood of a man whose fate was never meant to unfold this way. The robbery, lacking a backup plan, had crumbled, yet the aftermath was only just starting to unravel. In the early hours of February 23, 2023, Mickey Dobe was declared dead in the hospital, having endured a devastating shotgun wound to the back of his head. He had been caught off guard during a late-night delivery on Peterborough's Crabtree estate, a once peaceful residential area now transformed into a crime scene. The police response was swift. Cambridge police cordoned off the estate, initiating a major incident investigation. In the heart of a perplexing labyrinth known to locals as Crabtree, the scene of Dobe's tragic shooting unfolded, drawing the attention of dedicated investigators. An exhaustive forensic sweep commenced, with officers meticulously canvassing the neighborhood, gathering CCTV footage, and delving into the victim's mobile phone for vital clues. As the detectives pieced together the puzzle, they uncovered Doby's involvement with a notorious county lines network called the Turks, utilizing Burnaphone. Then, a pivotal moment emerged with the testimony of Anna Sealing, Doby's girlfriend, who had been with him during the delivery. Though shaken, her recollection was sharp as she recounted the details of one of the assailants. Despite the hood obscuring much of his appearance, she could clearly identify him. Her account aligned perfectly with footage captured by a neighbor's doorbell camera, which revealed 2 men strolling by just moments before the tragic shooting. In a striking turn, one of the men faced the camera directly, and that face was already familiar to the police: Liz Hutchinson, a man whose history of violence was well documented, with a rap sheet that extended far and wide. By 1 p.m. on that fateful day, the Cambridge police had already fielded numerous anonymous calls identifying Hutchinson as the suspect, with some even naming Christopher Pycraft. The suspects had not strayed far. While Hutchinson had initially vanished, Pycraft committed an audacious act, remained in the area, living a mere 2 minutes from the scene of the crime, still within the Crabtree estate. Rather than keeping a low profile, Pycraft was spotted within 24 hours, casually walking by a member of the Turks gang. The reaction was swift and merciless, as a dealer linked to the gang swiftly turned the car around. In a shocking turn of events, the scene unfolded in broad daylight as an assailant approached with a machete. Pycraft, in a desperate bid for survival, managed to deflect 2 strikes with his arm before losing his footing and escaping over a wall. The aftermath left him with deep gashes and a fractured arm, leading him to seek medical attention later that day. When questioned, he claimed the injuries were self-inflicted, but both the medical staff and the police remained skeptical. Meanwhile, Hutchinson sought refuge at a nearby traveller site, hiding within the confines of a scrap vehicle. However, the weight of his actions soon drove him to make a frantic call. Unable to remain hidden for long, grandmother Diane Riley received a call from a burner phone he'd just purchased in town. "I've been a bad boy," he confessed, and she agreed to collect him from the area, taking him back to her home in Skegness, over 90 miles away. There, she and Hutchinson's aunt, Jeannie Stewart, assisted him in disposing of his clothing. The police were not far behind. Investigators traced his call records and suspected his family as the most likely refuge. Just 2 days after the murder, on February 25, 202, in the coastal town of Skegness, a tale unfolds as Hutchinson finds himself in the clutches of the law, arrested without a hint of struggle. His family, too, faces the storm, with both his aunt and grandmother swept into the fray, charged with conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. Meanwhile, in Peterborough, Pycraft, still nursing wounds from a vicious machete attack, becomes the next figure in this unfolding drama. When the police inquire about his injuries, he reluctantly reveals that one of the dealers was responsible. Initially, Hutchinson remains tight-lipped, offering no comments during the early stages of questioning. Yet, as the narrative progresses, he eventually pens a written statement by his 3rd interview. Unraveling the threads of this complex story, Hutchinson recounted to the police that the shooting was an unfortunate accident. He described how, on that fateful night, he and Pycraft had merely stepped out for a stroll. In his account, Pycraft unexpectedly passed him a shotgun, which Hutchinson claimed he was awkwardly cradling like an infant. As a dealer's car whizzed by, panic set in, and the weapon discharged unexpectedly. He maintained that he had no intention of firing it, and was completely unaware that the shot would strike anyone. Furthermore, Hutchinson firmly rejected any notion that they had planned a robbery, asserting that there was no intention to steal. Despite the dealer's offerings, Pycraft stood firm. After hearing Hutchinson's account to the police, He chose to reveal everything. He provided detectives with a comprehensive statement, outlining the meticulous planning behind the robbery, detailing how Hutchinson procured the gun, how they orchestrated the ambush, and their aim to seize the drugs. Pycraft confessed to conspiracy to rob, but maintained that he never wished for Dobie's death. He believed Hutchinson fired a warning shot, which tragically struck Daube fatally as he attempted to flee. Pycraft's narrative aligned with Anna Selling's. In a gripping account, the eyewitness statement intertwined seamlessly with the ballistics and forensic evidence gathered at the scene. Most importantly, it empowered the police to pursue a murder charge against Hutchinson. Without that vital cooperation, the evidence might have faltered under scrutiny. Despite relentless efforts, the shotgun wielded in the tragic event remains elusive. The trial of Liz Hutchinson and Christopher Piroftoft commenced in June 2023, Peterborough Crown Court, capturing attention not only for the heinous act, but also for the brazen audacity that accompanied it. At the center of the unfolding drama lay the tragic murder of Mickey Daube, a drug courier caught in a deadly ambush on a late-night run for the notorious Turks County Lines gang. Now, the court stood poised to unravel the truth behind Hutchinson's shotgun blast. Was it a mere accident or a calculated act of malice? The prosecution meticulously crafted their narrative, presenting a compelling and damning case. They contended that Hutchinson and Pycraft had schemed together, luring a dealer to the Crabtree estate under the guise of a fake drug order, all with the sinister intent to rob him. To bolster their claims, prosecutors unveiled CCTV footage capturing both men lurking in the vicinity just moments before the fateful encounter. Before the tragic event unfolded, a doorbell camera recorded Hutchinson gazing directly into its lens. Witness testimony from Mickey Daube's girlfriend, Anna Seiling, who was in the car during the attack, corroborated the identity of the gunman. Forensic ballistics provided clear evidence, revealing that Daube had been shot in the back of the head at close range while trying to escape. Prosecutors firmly rejected any notion that the weapon had discharged accidentally, asserting instead that this was a robbery carried out with deadly intent. In a tale that spiraled into tragedy, Hutchinson stood before the court, asserting that the shotgun had gone off by accident, a claim he insisted was true as he never meant to take Mickey Daube's life. He expressed to the jury his profound devastation, explaining that he had merely been holding the weapon for another. However, a firearms expert countered this narrative, revealing that the trigger required intentional pressure to discharge, casting doubt on Hutchinson's story. The prosecution contended that Hutchinson had procured the gun himself, highlighting the discrepancies between his account and the evidence presented. The jury ultimately sided with the prosecution. Meanwhile, Christopher Pycraft had already admitted guilt to conspiracy, adding another layer to this unfolding drama. In a tale woven with tension and unexpected turns, Rob's defense hinged on his willingness to cooperate. He provided the police with a detailed narrative of the events, acknowledging his part in the robbery while carefully separating himself from the act of violence. He asserted that Hutchinson was the one who had introduced the gun into their scheme, emphasizing that their plan had never intended to culminate in bloodshed. His testimony, a crucial thread in the fabric of the case, was later recognized by prosecutors as essential. Without Pycraft's confession and collaboration, securing a murder charge against Hutchinson would have posed a significant challenge. On June 30th, 2023, the story reached its climax as the verdict was announced. Liz Hutchinson was found guilty of murder and conspiracy. In a courtroom filled with tension, the judge, His Honor Sean Enright, painted a stark picture of the events that unfolded. He described Hutchinson as a figure devoid of true remorse, labeling the act of killing as a reckless and tragic escalation of a life steeped in crime. The gavel fell, and Hutchinson was sentenced to life imprisonment, with a minimum term of 31 years before he could even dream of parole. Meanwhile, Pycraft found himself facing a different fate. He was handed a sentence of 5 years and 3 months for his role in the conspiracy to rob. The court took note of his cooperation, recognizing that his early guilty plea spared him from a potential 14 years behind bars. His assistance with the prosecution was acknowledged, a glimmer of light in an otherwise dark tale. In the courtroom, a significant mitigating factor emerged as the story unfolded, revealing the involvement of Hutchinson's family in his attempts to evade justice. His grandmother, Diane Riley, aged 65, and his aunt, Jeannie Stewart, aged 45, were both found guilty of conspiracy to pervert the course of justice, each receiving a sentence of 9 months in prison. Yet, a lingering mystery persists. Despite extensive police efforts, the shotgun used in the murder remains elusive, having vanished on the very night Mihidov lost his life. This case, with its twists and turns, leaves one pondering the depths of its intrigue. Incredible as it may seem, we invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe justice was genuinely served? Be sure to like this video, subscribe for more authentic UK crime tales, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an upload. And remember, we value your perspective, so drop your take below, read every comment.